So we did have some damage going to Usal Beach, but fortunately none of the damage happened to the Tacoma. It all happened to our tent trailer. I was just going to talk a little bit about our first trip in our Coleman E1 semi-off-road tent trailer. We went with Sierra Foothills chapter of Overland Bound over to Usal Beach in Northern California along the coast. And we had a great time, but of course there were some issues. Our first thing was the weather was not going to be super good. I'd never been there. Wasn't quite sure how that road or trail was, at least with a trailer. If we didn't have a trailer, I wouldn't have been concerned at all, but the trailer, when it's loaded, it's about 3,500 pounds, a little bit wider than our Tacoma tow vehicle. So I was a little concerned about how steep it may be and how much it may sink in the sand. Anyway, on the way in, no problems. Trail boss led us in there. We got to the trailhead, went right on the road. Dirt was powdery, so not too much of a concern. It was just dusty on the way in. There were some steep up and downs. Before we got to the beach, there was a big undulation. Probably should have got out and had a spotter or looked myself, but as we went through, the front stabilizing jack on the tent trailer got damaged. So that was the first thing that happened. I thought, well, this is one of those things, just chalk it up to my inattention. And it was human error, it's my fault. So I figured, well, I can replace that. So anyway, we were gonna camp on the beach itself, and so the group decided they wanted to camp by this fire pit that's already made on the beach.
So our plan was to go over there on the beach, but now we have this water situation that apparently they didn't have before, and it's supposed to rain tomorrow and the next day. Yeah, so that might make for a tricky water crossing tomorrow if it rains for the next 2 days. We might not be able to get out. So I think the guys are looking further north up the beach to see if there's a place out there. It looks like everybody else that's out here is pretty much on this north side of the beach, and probably for that reason. They're looking for a more secluded spot though, so that we can kind of hang out by ourselves and not have to deal with all these other people who are out here. And hopefully the rain will chase them away too.
So they told me to go ahead and head out first because since I had the trailer. Anyway, head out there, get about halfway to where I was intending to go. Got bogged down in sand. Tried to free up by backing up, going forward. That wasn't working.
We're stuck. Step 1, air down.
So we had to get out the traction boards.
It looks like you're okay though, yeah? I mean, you've got other folks with you.
Yeah, oh yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just following the group leader. He said, go out here. Okay.
All right, well, have a better rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Have fun, be careful.
Okay, thanks, you too.
So I have two. So we did put the traction boards behind the tires. We decided it's not going to be a good place to camp. We should just camp up where the sand is not so soft.
Oh, it got buried, huh? Where's the other one?
Right here?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there it is. get the traction boards behind the wheels so I could try and back up. Well, at that time, the Coleman trailer kept trying to, had a mind of its own. It didn't matter which way the truck was turning or backing up, it just kept wanting the jackknife in one direction.
You're gonna jackknife.
So that was kind of frustrating. So I thought, well, we had some help with us. They had a tow strap, and unfortunately, we wrapped it around the frame wrapped around the frame rail itself, but the bumper went across the two frame rails. Anyway, during that process, pulled the bumper off. I know, shouldn't have done it, should have known better, but chalk it up to mistakes. We can laugh about it now, but at the time it wasn't so funny because the supports that hold the bed up that we sleep on attached to that bumper, and now those were like sticking way, the bumper was sticking way out. So anyway, ended up, couldn't back up at all. Had to disconnect the trailer on the sand and then just reconnect with the truck in a different position. Was able to get off of there pretty easily. So we did eventually get the tent trailer set up on firmer ground. It was still close to the beach, but it was more of a low grassy area, had firmer soil. So our tent trailer has quite a bit of room in it. It has a queen bed at one end and a full size at the other, plus a dinette and a sink and a fridge and a hot water heater and stuff. So anyway, the next day it's raining. Kept raining, but it was nice to sit in there. I was glad we had it for that purpose because we had plenty of room in there, whereas some of the other people on our trip were a little bit more limited, you know, hanging out in the driver's seat of their rig or in the rooftop tent. So it was nice to have that extra space when the weather's bad. So that was all fine and dandy, but I was kind of getting concerned overnight because it was like, even after the second night, it was still raining. And I was a little concerned about the road on the way out, because what once was powdery dirt was now going to be a slimy mess. And I knew we had to go uphill. I knew there were some steep drop-offs. The trailer's wider than the truck, etc., etc. So anyway, ended up closing up the trailer in the rain, which is not the most convenient thing, but you just put on a raincoat and close it up. So we get off the flat beach area. Our leader actually went ahead of me. That way, if I got hung up, we could I could either use my winch line or a tow strap to hook to the back of his vehicle, and we could pull forward if it was too steep and slippery. So actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought, other than I was a little concerned. There's a wooden bridge down there just right before you get to the beach at Usal. And another thing, you know, human error, my fault. I was trying to get the truck line, make that sharp right turn onto that bridge. I was trying to line my tires up with the boards that are there spaced out for your tires. So I'm trying to get that all lined up. It's raining pretty heavily. Ended up clipping the side of the trailer on the edge of the bridge, which broke the door handle off the trailer and one of the speakers. So that was another thing that broke. Anyway, so at that point I was just wanting to get home. So we're going up the trail. So it wasn't too, even though it was muddy, it wasn't as bad as I thought it could have been. It was a little slick, but the main thing was just to keep some momentum. Like when you got to an uphill, you didn't want to stop in the middle of a hill and restart. And the good thing was, since the storm and a lot of people had already left, we didn't have to worry about oncoming traffic, because that would have been a little bit of an issue too, trying to pull over with the trailer, because it's not very wide in most places. So anyway, just like I say, a little bit of a run on some of the hills, and then coming down the hills, that was a little more exciting because of the extra weight of the trailer pushing on the steep down slopes. Had to really go slow. We were in four-wheel low. Tried to keep it, you know, like 2 or 3 miles an hour on the steep ones, just so it wasn't like a runaway freight train. And that seemed fine. Everything was working pretty good. We got to what was essentially a banked turn at one point on the trail, and there was an oncoming vehicle, and the position I was in, I couldn't really back up, and we were trying to make room for this oncoming truck. which he was very understanding and kind. So I was going to start it out on the high side of the bank turn. Well, once I started up on the high side of it was the right side. So once I started up the high side of that bank turn, the truck was fine, but the trailer started sliding sideways, so it slid down to where it was like almost jackknifed and blocking both directions of traffic. So anyway, the truck that was trying to pass us ended up backing up, and I was able to get back down that bank turn, get back on track, and then he went around me on my right. And then once we got back up to the main road, and we were able to air up the tires in the rain and get safely back home. And then I just chalked it up to, it's one of those things that happen on a trip. I guess I wasn't planning on that many things to be damaged in one trip. That's usually stuff that accumulates over a season or more for me. But anyway, it's all fixable stuff. It's going to be taken care of, and we'll be back on the trail again with it pretty soon.